And we're live just like that. Joby Aviation. Joby Aviation. The earnings call. The earnings call we've all been waiting for. This is what sets the tone for the whole eVTOL industry. Look, Joby are by far the furthest ahead in this industry. And this is going to really set the pace for what we're to expect, not only coming from Joby themselves, but when it comes to Archer, Beta, Horizon aircraft. So this is really exciting. Now, what I'm going to do today, I want to keep it more on a Joby front. So anyone that has any questions about that whole lawsuit when it comes to Archer and Vertical, we will address that. I have a video ready for that. So don't be panicking on that end. I was looking at Joby. On opening bell, they shot up to 1053. Now they're sitting at about 980. Look, I think it's one of those. If you're in, you're in. If you haven't got in by this time, I think it's a very risky move to do. We don't know what's going to happen. Today we did get confirmation. Once Dylan gets on the call, we will jump across and have a look at that whole Dubai experience. We've seen today they have furthered their partnership with Uber, and they've more or less what we've seen down in San Francisco with the whole immersive experience with Joby on the Uber app and the wrap cars. We're now starting to see Joby be integrated into the whole Uber app, so people can experience what it's like where you get, say, an Uber Black and then you jump onto an S4 along the way. The very exciting thing, you'll see I have put up a poll in the chat there. Will we get confirmation of Q3 rollout in Dubai? Now, they've more or less come out today and said they will carry their first passengers later this year in Dubai. Do we think that's going to get pushed back anymore, or are we more or less certain we're going into Q3? Once Dylan gets on, we're going to speak a little about what we want to hear from the analyst questions, what we think retail has asked them, and what would make this a good call. Are you expecting to hear FAA certification this year? Is it go ahead? As I've said before, is it going to be a deal breaker if FAA certification isn't achieved this year? Or are you happy with the rollout in the likes of Dubai? To me personally, if they can roll out in Dubai and we can start seeing passengers on board these S4, I'm not actually as bothered about FAA certification. Don't get me wrong, FAA certification is a must, but it's not going to worry me whether it happens in 26 or 27 if we do get passenger operations in Dubai. Dylan, my guy, how are we getting on?
Hey, doing well, Liam. Ready for the Joby watch party. So yeah, doing well, and it's exciting. I won't go on too long, but exciting to get to another quarterly call and kind of wrap up a quarterly year for Joby and really see what the guidance is, both financial and just like you're saying, lean into the UAE, kind of running in to Q3, maybe sooner, maybe later, maybe right on time. So yeah.
And that'll
Exciting
signal something
times.
massive. If they come out today and say they're going into UAE Q3 100%, and they're doubling down 2 quarters prior, well, we can call it 2.5 quarters prior, that'll show an immense confidence and strength in the sector. Honestly, I believe it's going to have a knock-on effect on the whole sector if Joby announce any sort of delays. You can expect them sort of delays across the whole sector. So Joby is the front runner here. Joby is setting the flag for the whole industry. I want to jump and say, Dyke Jackson, what's up, boys? Big shout out, Dyke. Love having you here. This is one of the many, one of 4 times a year in Joby Aviation that you will see me fly off the handle if I don't hear the right thing. Or you'll see a pure, passionate, happy rant if it works. I'm gutted Reese is not here, because if he was here, it'd be a comedy show if something goes wrong, because he would really fly off the handle.
True heart on sleeve. He definitely. And if you're out there, big shout out Reese, miss your brother. So just big shout out to you. While we're on that one.
But then, yeah, I've been covering the
Yeah.
whole Joby ready to take off of Uber in Dubai. We've seen the successful rollout of that immersive flight experience across that weekend. We've seen the Super Bowl weekend. We're now seeing them go into Dubai. They're integrating into the Uber app, showing customers what it'll be like. You can book a taxi, therefore get you to an air taxi, and the air taxi can fly you to your location, e.g. an airport. They put up a really nice video. I don't want to bang that up on the screen just in case I lose our audio very early on. But what do you think this means? Do you think they're signaling, yes, we are ready to go in? It's happened just before the earnings call, so it looks like it's good news.
Yeah, so with that question, I am taking it as a signal of kind of planting the flag and moving in. What I actually thought was really cool when you look at it, kind of both the correlation of how you're getting your basically your auto service through Uber as well as your air taxi service, and then pairing again together what your complete not flight route, your complete travel route will be in that. So really able to gauge out as well. So even if you see the one that they had put up on the website, reaching DBX Terminal 3 by 6 p.m. So you have somebody that is leaving in an Uber Black, ready to pick them up in about 2 minutes. They would be, looks to be arriving at the Palm Vertiport, and that would be at about 5:43 it has on here, and that would be an 11-minute flight, and then that would be getting you to the airport vertiport, and then getting you the Uber Black basically on site to get you to Terminal 3. So basically just reading that as it states, basically for the purpose of, I think it's starting to also map out when we've kind of looked at, are these going to be aircraft that are going to be taking you directly over and into, you know, kind of bypassing your security checks or your FBOs and all that kind of stuff. So I think it's interesting to see how they're starting to map out the full travel ride for the commuter and integrating both the automobile and the air taxi into the route. And, you know, from a company like Uber, we could definitely look at their market cap once I have a second. But so for a company like Uber, you know, again, I've said this, it's always been something as these companies partner and really put their name on the air taxis as well. To me, that's something, not just them showing support, but that's them making a business decision that this is the right time for them also to put their name on and behind the product. So by having that collaboration, and just like you say, coming out right before the earnings call, I could see that leading into very, very exciting news on what we may see in the next quarter and 2 quarters. And then maybe also just getting a little bit of an understanding of maybe how many aircraft we can start sending over there, whether that's for the general market survey, if that could start pre Q3, or again, once we're talking into passenger, just like Joby was saying, and we'll most likely elaborate on the call as well, seeing how many aircraft we can get over there, and, you know, start kind of crunching revenue numbers and seeing what that can do, and then flipping over, you know, and this is way too ahead, so not for this earnings call, but then, you know, a year from now, flipping over to what that rollout in the manufacturing will be, and being able to parse up those aircraft kind of per those consumer units and such like that. So yeah, I think it's one of those things where the dots are connecting like really in front of our face, and you're literally having an app that you're going to be able to open up, and on there, you're seeing literally the aircraft that you've been investing in for days, months, weeks, and years. So yeah. Very, very exciting.
Guys, already 250 of you here live between X and YouTube. Do smash that like button. Do you know what? I'm going to do a giveaway in the middle of this. So make sure you smash the like button, smash the subscribe button to be in chance to win. Do you know what? I might give away a t-shirt as well in the giveaway. So
I like it.
Guys, do jump in, smash the like button, smash the subscribe, and let us know actually, what are you expecting for Joby in this call? What will be a successful call? Because I think so many people have so many things that they class as success, and I think that is the whole worry in this industry, because I don't think the specialists, the FAA themselves, understand what they're looking for, let alone us as retail investors in Joby Aviation. So my one bit of, I don't even want to call it advice, but just don't make your own synthetic goals and guidelines. Listen to what the company has to say and compare them to what they've said previously. Don't just go off because you've seen someone on X or on wherever you've seen them made up a whole thesis, philosophy, whatever you want to call it. That is their thesis. That is their philosophy. If you want to integrate it into your own, fair enough, but know why you're integrating it in. Don't just expect Joby to be flying S4 by the thousands next year. Dylan, I don't know, did you hit on it there? Would you see a successful year next year? So, no, we'll say this year, 2026, if we get UAE rollout, but we don't get FAA certification.
Yeah, short answer in that, absolutely. I think again for me, that's been one of the things where it's going to be who's the first early adopter, and is it going to be US or UAE? And again, it is coming through the aviation regulatory bodies, so being it the FAA or the GCAA. So I see it as a huge industry win if we're able to now enter into a market, even if it's not on US soil. Again, we've kind of seen the UAE have been backers of the general vertiport buildouts as well as the eVTOL aircraft. I would say minimally since about 2021, being early investors in these types of companies as well. So yeah, I think that would definitely deem as a success. I think with that, you might see more into some Uber promotion of the product as well. So it'll be interesting to see how Uber kind of integrates that into their system over in Dubai, kind of running the metrics, seeing the numbers, seeing what revenue could be brought once it is adopted and certified by the FAA. And again, kind of looking at their strategic PR map basically on how they're going to start introducing this to us as the public. Now, maybe that backdoors a little bit into the eIPP, which I'm not going to oversaturate and talk right now. But again, kind of in that early adoption of not just visually seeing the aircraft, but also being able to open what would be a common rideshare app for you, me, or maybe everybody else in the chat, and kind of having that curious like coming soon, piece next to it. And then again, whether you're an investor, I think that would show some thesis confidence going into Uber putting that on the platform, even if there was a coming soon to that. And then again, if you've never heard of these aircraft, and all of a sudden you pop on your Uber app and it's offering you this helicopter for pennies on the dollar of what you may think that cost of flight may take, I want to say that at least shot in the dark, 50% of the people are at least going to hit Google and be like, what's the S4? What's Joby? What is this about? And then again, the time saving where again, you can't, we don't have the physics to make a time machine yet, but they've said kind of in the eVTOL space, the best way that we can look to gain our time back is to take individuals out of commuter traffic. And with that private jet experience, a lot of people are losing that experience by having to then hit ground traffic. So, but yeah, to tailor back to your question, I think it would be considered a success. Definitely for Joby as a company, because again, number one, that's the company that would be doing it. So definitely, I think big check mark to Joby as they do Q3 entrance. And again, maybe some broader investor confidence for those that are in the eVTOL space, in whether it's Joby or any other company, in seeing that this is more of a dream coming to fruition, as opposed to just like the parts and assembly and kind of seeing those unfinished products. And to that, I'll leave it on, we enter into passenger flights in Dubai, you're seeing, a finished product in the air. So no longer is it pictures of, kind of wings here and props there and battery stress tests here to kind of be put together to assemble to the final aircraft. Again, there it will be up in the air for all to see, but for nobody to hear. So yeah, I like it a lot.
I love that. Nobody to hear. No, do you know what? I think it's a great time for them to start rolling it out in the Uber app. Because if you think, as an everyday civilian walking around and you've never heard of the likes of an air taxi, it'll take you 5, 10, 15 attempts of viewing this to think that's really a thing.
That's true.
Because when you jump in and see this thing that looks like a helicopter, you think there's no way I can afford that. I ain't even looking at what is that.
That's true.
So when you see it on the Uber app, then you start seeing them flying around. It definitely, and plus backed by a partner like Uber, it really stamps a bit of authority in there that these vehicles are safe. These are for everyday commute, and it's not just some pipe dream that people are speaking about. This is now a thing. I want to give a big shout out to Matt. Hey there. Big congratulations on your interview with Brandon, my guy. Big shout out. Great to see more and more investors in the space speaking CEOs. I think that is a fantastic way to bridge the knowledge gap in the eVTOL industry. Is literally skip the middleman, talk directly to the CEO themselves. Big shout out, my guy. Go Games, I'll take a Hustle Brothers t-shirt. Do you know what? I'm going to give away 1, maybe 2, maybe 3 Hustle Brother t-shirts. So, guys, do smash that like button and bang the subscribe. You have to be subscribed if you want a Hustle Brother t-shirt. Wild Saddle for fourth quarter 2025. Yes, my guy, we're going to cover that very soon. DT Rich says, yo.
Welcome.
Alvin, soon for Q4. So the call is at, I don't know what it is for you guys. Is it 5 p.m. Eastern time?
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah, we'll be covering that live. But the whole press release normally comes out about 4:15 to 4:30 Eastern time. So we'll be covering that too. But yeah. Now, looking at it coming in towards closing bell.
Yeah.
Let me just jump across. So we're sitting at 982. We're 1.03% up. Guys, I would just be very careful playing this now. Sure. If you're a long-term investor in Joby Aviation, you are in. If you're not happy with your position, you've had so long to become happy with your position. I wouldn't be jumping in 10 minutes before a earnings call. Yes, we may see an initial pop, or we could see an initial drop. I never really take much notice of that. It's normally about 2 to 3 hours after the earnings call, you start seeing where it's sinking in, and then opening bell tomorrow. But then you could be caught in a trap on opening bell tomorrow too.
Absolutely.
So I just don't like messing around with earnings calls. This is for the long-term investors that just want an update on exactly where we're going, what we're doing, how we've done over not only Q4, but over the whole year. This one's normally an exciting one because it does wrap up everything. Do you think we'll hear anything about any of the lawsuits? That would make it quite negative inside.
Oh, you know, it's a great question to ask, though. I had not thought of it, Liam, but I'm glad you brought it to the mind. I'm gonna say that no, I don't think we're gonna hear of it. I think just like you said, especially if they've kind of came in with, probably at least a 2-week map on what they want to kind of hit on their earnings calls. I wonder if they would kind of want to take that step backwards in the sense of, instead of posing what are going to be the 3 and 6 month guidance goals, kind of looking and almost kind of putting that like back step on just kind of the cloudy part of the industry that had been going on. So not to say that still we don't want to find out the true verdicts clearing from the Cavort case. But no, it's a really good question. I'm going to go with no, not brought up on the earnings call. But if they don't bring it up, though, I'm okay with that. And to me, that's, them just handling the legal stuff behind doors and then just coming to the earnings call with just a little bit of other information. But what do you think? Do you think they'll fire it out?
I don't think they'll go near it. I think it's too negative at the moment. Are they going to want to pull any of that noise back into the sector?
Yeah. Good way to put it. And
Like,
go for it. Oh no, the only last thought I had was, I'll be curious to see, will this be one of the earnings calls where maybe we kind of stop getting shots fired? Because we always see that there's the 1, 2, or 3 digs that kind of come both ways. So we'll keep the ears perked for those, whether those are in prepared remarks or, maybe when Joe Ben is talking a little bit more of the design and manufacturing of the aircraft. But for me, again, it's really kind of the year of coming together collaboratively, whether it's as investors or investors, community, uh, whether you're building on Team Joby or any of the other eVTOL companies out there. So, they have every right to being the industry leader to come out and definitely, kind of put their shots in the air and say where they're at in certification progress and make any remarks towards any other company. But for me, I think I'll take the wholesome approach going into this earnings call. I think Joe Ben will probably have a really solid prepared remarks statement that comes out. And a question either for you, Liam, or I don't know, did you have a thought that you wanted to finish up prior?
No, really, I want to know where Blade's going to.
You're reading my mind. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I want to know how they're going thinking about. At the moment, we know that they lease them helicopters. I think there's 24 of them. How are they thinking of the approach of rolling out the S4? They're going rolling out the S4 under dedicated cities initially in the US, or are they going to cover their, like, basically throw the helicopters out and put S4 in before we go down the whole Joby Aviation saturation route? What are your thoughts on it?
It's an interesting question, and I'm trying to think of it almost like a metaphor in an automobile kind of sense where I'm trying to think, like, let's say you went to like, let's just say Mercedes. You were going and you were expecting to pick up a Mercedes, and the last 5 Mercedes that somebody had been picked up were AMGs or G Wagons or something like that, and then when it comes to your lease or your rental car that you might be getting for 2 or 3 days from them, they give you the E300. So again, you're still getting a Mercedes. It's still an E-Class. Like, none of kind of like throw your nose up at that. But I didn't get the AMG that I saw that guy just drive off with, though. So can I get that next time? Or so basically my point is it will be interesting to see if they do that transition where they're having some of the regular helis and the rotorcraft versus the eVTOLs. Just will there be kind of any push and pull, and maybe start showing some favoritism for clients that are enjoying more of the eVTOL travel, be it either for the net emissions and going kind of that net zero, kind of to have that green effect, also maybe that being important to them, and or to the business that they're representing as they're flying in and out of New York to go to the business meetings or to their daily business offices as well. And so, yeah, I think introducing them, but I think Blade's probably going to be one of the best ways inside or outside of the eIPP to show again that opportunity for tourism to start really showing what an air taxi route can be, because we know that Blade has already basically set up point-to-point locations in which these helis are flying to. One thing I was thinking about on Blade, and this is just a curious question, and would love to know from the chat as well, and any thoughts from you, Liam, where this is going to be the second quarter that we're going to get revenue reported from Blade. So I can pose it in both ways because it's really not bullish, not bearish, just the general question. If the revenue was a decrease or an increase from last quarter on Blade, would anybody have any particular feelings, thoughts, or would we just be looking at as this is still Blade operating regular helis? This is the revenue that's being brought in during this kind of cyclical season of that helicopter business, and kind of just moving forward and just seeing that as maybe a $10 to $20 million revenue stream on the cash, but on the books, versus being seen as something negative, where if the revenue in Blade was to decline from last quarter, for me myself, I'm not going to get kind of all up in arms about that specific revenue declining, because I think there's a bigger mission at hand with the acquisition of Blade and what can happen with that. But yeah, either for you, Liam, or to crowdsource, if anybody wants to come back, just kind of any thoughts, because right now, those are really the only revenue numbers that we're able to show on the books. So again, if you're a quote unquote Wall Street analyst, are you penalizing a company like that because they're showing quote unquote less revenue on the books? Where for us and the community, all of us that are enthusiasts, we know that that's just kind of like an extra arm of the business, an extra leg of the business, a way to bring in a few $1,000,000 cash, not needing to, have small dilutions here or there, and having that revenue on the balance sheet. So for me, it kind of comes down, it really comes kind of to a moot point. I would like to see an increase, but even if it was at a equal to decrease, I wouldn't sit there and write a bare thesis up and saying that Blade was a bad acquisition because quarter over quarter numbers declined by 10% or 15% or something like that. Wouldn't be that big of a thing to me.
I want to jump in here. Bag of Holding said, did the
Hey.
executives tell you to stop being friendly to me? No, my guy. I promise you, they've never referred to you. You're part of the furniture here, so don't worry, my guy. S4 will probably roll out first as a medical transplant vehicle. I don't know. Is that something they are properly expecting? I don't know if they'll be rolling out heavily on the medical transport and transplant. I think that's more of the Horizon Aircraft side.
Well, and just to that, Liam, just to show kind of some of the back information that, we've either talked about after some of the eVTOL weekly calls and stuff, we even mapped out, and you might have talked about this with Horizon, so I apologize if I'm repeating it, but we've even mapped out, like, when you look at the ambulance and the general height of the EMS machines and Liam's probably got a better word, but basically for all the life-saving equipment that will need to go into the ambulance, there's general like height structures and kind of everything's kind of made to a specific height and dimension point. So putting those into the eVTOL aircraft, I think again, we would just have to see, if you gutted the seats on an S4 minus payload, would you be able to operationally fit all the equipment? And then again, when we were, and this is just again kind of what we talk about on the after shows of eVTOL Live. You have an ambulance where you're going to have the stretcher and go in the back, so you might have the access to have a medical worker on both sides. Where in the eVTOL, you may have to have the medical transport bed further against the kind of, I'll call it the wall of the aircraft. So I don't know if it's giving you the full 360 around. So it would be interesting to see continued design mock-ups as the eVTOL companies roll forward in the medical use cases to, again, just kind of paint the picture and see just how they're looking to kind of outfit and retrofit out those specific use cases too.
Thank you for that, Dylan. And then Alvin says, Joby and Ondas, holding both of them. I'm heavy in Joby. Ondas I never really properly got into, but VAS CNC does cover Ondas. I think it's more or less weekly. So if you're invested heavily in Ondas, you probably already know who Chris is. But yeah, VAS CNC, if you don't know, on X, he covers Ondas immensely.
Big shout out, Chris.
We're 2 minutes away from closing bell. Let me have a look. We're still sitting at 981, 0.87% up. So we're sitting quite flat on the day. We did have that really big push up this morning. It went up to 1050 at one stage. But yeah, we're sitting quite flat. I think no one knows whether to stick or twist at this stage. We're going to hear a little bit more about that whole dilution event. We're going to find out where any of that capital has gone to. Also, I want to know quite a bit about the cash burn rate. Because
good call.
Especially the fact that these are not going to be profitable for a long time. We really need to know the whole cash runway and how they intend to use this cash going forward. How many more of these big events can we expect prior to profitability? It's weird that we're starting to talk about that now, but we really need to start thinking of it. We're now at the early stages of starting to roll out commercially. So let's start looking at the next milestone. Let's not get too bogged down in this whole FAA certification. Yes, if FAA certification doesn't happen, it puts a handbrake on absolutely everything, but we need to start analyzing the company as if we have passed FAA certification, because from all indications from Joby Aviation side, we're going to pass FAA certification with flying colors. What are your thoughts, Dylan?
You know what? And actually, I love the way you put that, because again, even if it's not on earnings call guidance, just kind of tapping into the day to day and week to week that we're getting the updates from Joby. No, I'm locked with you where listening to Team Joby, it sounds like, again, certification isn't a maybe. It is more of a will be happening. I think, again, once we get to the call, it'll be interesting to see if there does sound like there's any delay on the FAA side. Again, they were able to start the power on testing last earnings call. So, as we see the shareholder deck come out, it'll be interesting to see, kind of as Joby does, Morgan, their kind of bubble filling graph, to see the progressions that they've gone through in their TA process. Now, again, still curious where I would say in the last 3 months, what has been able to be accomplished, and how much basically, and how much time is that leaving left on. But I do kind of back that into the general thought that's bouncing around my head was, again, that bill that was going through the House and the Senate, bipartisan, and that being on February 13th, where that, and kind of posing that with the eIPP, I think really does put an emphasis on the FAA to both have the time and the employees and basically the organizational structure to come in and give these eVTOLs the time that is needed. One piece that's been talked about in a little bit of the longevity in these aircraft being certified is, one, they're a new class of aircraft. So sometimes you'll go find an airworthiness cert, and it will actually be deemed under the SFAR. So basically a special regulation cert for some exempt aircraft, or someone's with some special kind of like safety issues to look at that wouldn't just get the like quote unquote FAA airworthiness cert, just as kind of like your traditional airliner or such might get. But also with that, looking at, kind of the year-over-year guidance to see if there is an uptick. So I know between this company, we're, generally sit around maybe about a $140 million cash burn per quarter, give or take 20 million here or there, depending on what quarter they're in. So, if we do look at something ramping to, let's say, a $250 million cash burn on a quarter per quarter, one, as an investor, yes, we can kind of start to map that out with what cash is left on hand. But like you're saying, Liam, I think it's all, again, to the purpose of what are we doing with, what are they doing with the cash, and able to implement that into their strategic goals and making that across the finish line. So very curious what's kind of been going on in the last 3 months, and definitely the cash burn rate that will be coming into the next quarter. I did have about 8 questions that I was curious from Joby. I'll just fire them off really quick.
Go for it.
If anybody in the chat, if you have any thoughts on it, definitely put them in. And I'll just kind of run 1 through 8 really quick. And if anybody wants to expand on, definitely let's do it pre-call. So what I would like to hear about: 1, what to expect for timelines and milestones of the anticipated Q3 rollout in Dubai. Will there be a heavier year-over-year guide for 2026 in cash burn per quarter? Number 3, updates to include specific certification milestones that can be mentioned, as power on testing was highlighted on the last call. Number 4, I would like to hear more on the charging system, the Geeks charging network, and see if Joby, maybe in their mind, is looking to have that be intended as more of an industry adopted a way of charging. So if they want to speak on that at all, I'd love to hear. How open to model of sale of their aircraft versus the manufacturer, owner, and operator. So again, a few months ago, kind of started to hear the words sale come up in Joby. So just kind of curious if they're leaning further into that, or really sticking with wanting to, again, as they vertically integrated.
Back and forth with one of the executive on X.
Yeah.
Which is pretty adamant that Joby are going along a sales pathway as well.
Okay.
Now, if they're rolling out, what are we saying, 48 aircraft next year, how many of them are going to be dedicated as sale S4? Or is sale a long way away while they build out this saturation of the market? Like, I think you even need to do one or the other at this very early stage. But they were pretty adamant that they're going after both, which they know more than I do.
And with that, let's just play some hypothetical. Let's just say FAA certification did not happen until late 26. Like I'm talking like December 26 or rolling into early 27. So if that was the case and UAE was basically to be the first to adopt the passenger flights, would that give Joby maybe a bit of a look into basically what the market revenue could be on, again, getting a 1 to 3 month rollout of the aircraft in the OEM type of network, and then basically crunching those numbers and seeing if that's something that, again, once you get 3 to 6 months more further adopted by FAA, bringing into US soil, will those metrics work out with the current fleet of aircraft that they have? So I'm in agreement with you where I do think Joby will continue to go down the route of looking to own and operate the aircraft. But within these initial 48, will there be any of the MOUs that will have to be delivered on? So, even if we cut it in half, so let's say they sold 24 and kept 24. That's still 24 aircraft for Joby to own and operate themselves. And again, that doesn't mean they have to own and operate those in 24 different states. They could pick 1, 2 states.
I'm gonna stop you there.
Stop.
Shareholder let us out.
Time. Let's do it.
That is wild. They came out quite early, didn't that?
They were like, Dylan, stop talking. Let's go.
Right, guys. I'm gonna get the shareholder letter out.
Love it.
Here now.
Love it.
I thought this time I'm not being late on it.
You always on it. Let's see, and I'll pull it up too. Go for it first.
Right, guys. So you're gonna see me squinting this way into the thing. I'm not at home at the moment. So shareholder letter is Q4 2025. We're looking at the S4 there. So highlights are record 18-point increase in FAA progress on the 4th stage of certification. We will get into all of this. First FAA conforming aircraft for TIA set to fly shortly. So bag of holding, there we go, set to fly shortly. First passengers expected in 2026. And is this going to be paying passengers or is this just going to be passengers on board? To me, I don't really care.
Mm-hmm.
Let me actually get rid of the comments though. Plans to double production capacity in 2027. So we're going to see, is it any further than the doubling from 2 to 4, or is that what we already know about? Turbine electric demonstrator aircraft completes the first flight, 1.4 billion in cash and short-term investments as of Q4 2025, plus an additional net 1.2 billion received in February. And that's what we're all aware of. So, look, they continue to make excellent progress towards certifying the aircraft. They've moved up 18 points. Now, the only thing that does worry me about this here, when we started speaking about it, was each of these stages, we don't actually know what it is that ticks these boxes. So it would be like me saying I am in stage for 80% of the Hustle Brothers rollout of a Joby Aviation podcast. We don't actually know what everything entails, but like it's a good visual, and look,
Sure.
They seem to believe they're making progress. So the first FAA conforming aircraft for TIA is set to fly shortly, with all of the aircraft required for type inspection authorization now in production, supported by a robust ground and flight test program that saw Joby's electric air taxi fly more than 9,000 miles in 2025. FAA pilots are expected to fly the aircraft later this year as part of for-credit testing, with data collected during the flights used to support issuance of a type certificate. And that's the thing. They need to be given these credits. All the flight time they're doing at the moment does not count towards the FAA certification. That's their own data, but the FAA do need their own data as well. So look, and we found out a little bit about this today, they are preparing for early operations. They recently announced their first 4 vertiports in the Dubai network, and as they prepare to carry out the first passenger later this year, construction is already well underway in Dubai International Airport and American University of Dubai, with landing sites at Palm, I don't even want to say that name, and Dubai Mall set to complete their initial network. Guys, can you actually see that okay, or is that better for you? Then operations are also expected to begin in the US this year. Okay. With the White House-backed eVTOL integration pilot program. So they've already more or less guaranteed that they're getting into the eIPP before the eIPP's got announced. So we know Joby's in it. Dylan, are you muted?
I am. No, sorry about that. No, I was like, yeah, no, that is true. That is true. No, good call on that. Good catch. Good catch on that.
They're set to select at least 5 sites for the mature eVTOL aircraft to begin operating in type certification. In December, they welcomed the US Department of Transportation AAM national strategy, which provides a clear policy roadmap for AAM development. And earlier this month, they completed a 32-mile flight from the facility in Marina across to Monterey Bay to their original home in Santa Cruz Mountains, highlighting the maturity of their operations. And that way, they were able to take off land again. We continue to work closely with their go-to-market partners as they prepare for launch, and recently released details about Joby will be integrated into the Uber app, providing customers with seamless end-to-end journeys. In preparation for commercial operations, they took delivery of the first 2 flight simulators developed in the partnership with the CAE. The simulators are scheduled to be qualified amongst the highest FAA's classifications for flight simulation, delivering the same ultra-realistic environments used to train pilots of the world's leading airliners. Now, this is what we were speaking about, the doubling of production. So, for advanced air mobility, they announced the intention to double manufacturing capacity from 2 to 4 aircraft in 2027, alongside governmental support for the launch of operations this year in Dubai and the US via the eIPP program. They're also disclosed more than $1 billion in potential aircraft and service sales last year, which is insane. To support this growth, they signed an agreement to acquire the manufacturing facility in Dayton, Ohio, spanning more than 700,000 square feet. Operations at the facility, which is ready for immediate use, are expected to begin this year. The site complements their existing production facilities in California and Ohio, where they have begun procurement of the capital equipment required to reach the goal of doubling manufacturing capacity in 2027, or hiring the support round-the-clock manufacturing operations. Now, the one thing I love about this acquisition, we were always saying about Archer having the bigger manufacturing capabilities, but I think this has slightly pipped Archer's ability to manufacture. 'Cause I think Covington, Georgia is 950,000 square feet. This one here is 700,000 plus their original facility. So Joby is well underway in manufacturing capabilities. So, unprecedented global demand. They continue to see significant demand for their product across the globe. And this is exactly what we want to hear as investors. This is why we want updates on not only how Joby Aviation are doing, but are we going to be able to actually put bums on seats when it comes to actually operating as a business? It's all right getting an aircraft that you can certify, but if you can't get someone to fly on it, then it's no good to you. So, across the globe and during the quarter, they signed a range of deals that will support early operations in key markets. In the US, they announced a partnership with Metropolis Technologies to develop 25 vertiports across the US, utilizing Metropolis' extensive network of parking locations. And this is more or less going to be like your vertiport. It's going to be like more or less a bus stop for your air taxis. And we've 25 of them set to come out. In the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, they announced plans for rapid deployment of the aircraft, working alongside the GACA to utilize the FAA's certification standards as a foundation to create a streamlined approval process for their aircraft. they've also signed a memorandum of understanding with Red Sea Global and the helicopter
Mhm.
company that includes plans for Joby to complete pre-commercial evaluation flights in the first half of 2026, with charging, airspace integration, and ground communications. Going across to Japan, they completed the first flight demonstration at Toyota's Fuji Speedway site near Mount Fuji as part of the company's World Arigato Fest 2025. And was that more or less a year ago, was I seeing the last day?
It does seem, you're probably hitting on it. And even if it was 6 months ago, even just in this shareholder letter so far, even the Metropolis news, it's just kind of crazy how much stuff goes on in this eVTOL industry that does get covered every week. But again, it can get so lost just kind of in that sauce of everything else that is going on as well. But no, you hit it, and yeah, no, for that Fuji Speedway, no, you're on it, absolutely correct.
They're participating in a consortium led by Nomura Real Estate that was selected by Tokyo Metropolitan Government for the eVTOL implementation project, a multi-year plan to make commercial air taxi service a reality by 2030. In Kazakhstan, they signed a letter of intent to sell aircraft and services valued at 250 million. The agreement, which includes pre-delivery payments, is being supported by parallel memorandum of understanding between Joby and the Ministry of Artificial Intelligence and Digital Development of the Republic of Kazakhstan. So at the moment, there's been nothing that we haven't really been aware of, apart from any of you that weren't aware today that they'd put out that. Then going across, hybrid demonstrator flies. So the turbine electric autonomous VTOL aircraft flew for the first time just 3 months after they announced the aircraft concept alongside the new partnership with L3Harris Technologies. And we want to hear a little bit about L3Harris. I don't think we're hearing enough about the L3Harris and the whole military project. So I really want to hear a lot more about that in the call, even though we do know a lot of it is quite confidential, especially until these products come out. The demonstrator builds on the fully electric air taxi platform and integrates the hybrid turbine powertrain along with their superpilot autonomy stack to deliver greater range and payload capability. Potential applications for the aircraft include longer range air taxi services as well as a sales to civilians, commercial, and defense customers.
Very interesting.
L3Harris plans to equip the hybrid aircraft to address defensive applications such as contested logistics, loyal wingman operations, and low altitude support, building on the proven expertise on the platform. I can't even say that word, bro. The aircraft is continuing with ground and flight testing ahead of taking part in operational demonstrations with the government customers planned for 2026. And that is a beautiful look at your hybrid VTOL.
I like it. I like it a
Then,
lot.
if you picture there celebrating the launch of the what is Bag Golden says? I don't like the report. No. That is a few pictures of all the highlights that have been going on across the while. If any of you guys want to jump into it, I'm just mindful of the time. Dylan, this is your specialty. Financial updates. Do you want to jump in there?
Yeah, let me scroll back. Sorry, I was glazing over some of the Joby pictures. But yeah, happy to. So we have fourth quarter 2025 financial summary. In the fourth quarter of 2025, revenue totaled $30.8 million. Our net loss of $121.5 million primarily reflected the net operating loss of $206.8 million and other income of $86.3 million. Operating expenses for the quarter totaled $237.6 million and reflected costs to support certification and manufacturing of our aircraft and costs associated with the acquisition and operation of Blade's passenger business. Expenses included stock-based compensation of $41.4 million and depreciation and amortization of $11.1 million. Other gains reflected in the non-cash reevaluation of warrants, earned out shares, and contingent consideration of $72.6 million, and interest and other income of $13.7 million. So it's looking again like it's about a 240 reflected cash burn. And the net loss in the fourth quarter of 2025 decreased by $124.7 million compared with the net loss in the fourth quarter of 2024. So let's see, net loss in fourth quarter of 2005 decreased by 100. That's nice. The lower net loss compared with 2024 primarily reflected on non-cash favorable revaluation of warrants, earnout shares, and contingent consideration and higher interest and other income. Compared with the third quarter of 2025, our fourth quarter net loss decreased by $279.7 million. Other income was $305.8 million, higher than the previous quarter, primarily reflecting a favorable non-cash reevaluation gain on our warrants, earnout shares, and contingent consideration. The high loss from operations of $25.1 million compared with the third quarter of 2025 primarily reflected increased personnel and operating expenses as we grew the team to support certification and manufacturing and Blade operation costs, partially offset by higher revenue from Blade. Adjusted EBITDA in the fourth quarter of 2025 was a loss of $154.1 million, primarily reflecting employee costs and support associated with the development, certification, and manufacturing of the aircraft and operations of Blade. The adjusted EBITDA loss was $35.4 million higher than the fourth quarter of 2024 and $21.3 million higher than the prior quarter. Adjusted EBITDA is a non-GAAP metric. So it's a non-GAAP metric defined as net income loss before interest income, interest expense, income tax, expense benefits, depreciation, and amortization expense, stock-based compensation expense, and let's see here, loss on common stock issuance in private placement, impact from reevaluation of non-operating derivative liabilities, acquisition transaction costs, and other income or costs that are not directly related to ongoing core operations. So please see the section titled Non-GAAP Financial Measures, and we'll go over that as well as we'll hear on the call. We ended the fourth quarter of 2025 with $1.41 billion in cash equivalents, and investments in marketable securities. During 2025, our use of cash equivalents, and short-term investments, including money raised from equity financing, was $539 million. As we progress towards certification of our eVTOL aircraft, expansion of our manufacturing scale, and advancing our commercialization efforts, we estimate that our use of cash equivalents, and short-term investments through the first half of 2026 will be between $340 million and $370 million, excluding approximately $33 million for the one-time purchase of a building in Ohio that we plan to use for manufacturing. We expect full year 2026 total revenue in the range of $105 to $115 million. Subsequent to the end of Q4 25, we completed underwriting equity and convertible debt offerings, attracting participation from both existing and new shareholders. We are honored by the continued support of Bally Gafford funds and accounts and managed by Counterpoint Global, Morgan Stanley Investment Management, who tenured teams with long-term investment approaches aligned with Joby's position as a next generation aviation company. Net proceeds from the current concurrent offerings were approximately $1.2 billion. So it just really quick in that, exciting to hear what they're doing for the full year expected revenue. So I'm sure we'll get more on that. And so, yeah, once you go down that, you'll basically be seeing comparative numbers for year ends and month ends. So you're going to have quarter to quarter and year over year spends. And so like you see on the revenue, you have the 836 and 24, it was 55. So you're just going to get general financial numbers that are going to map out exactly what they're going to talk about, and the CFO will talk about on the call, and talking about how they are now, both companies are actually going in EBITDA metrics to kind of help out the costs associated, and kind of how to transpose those metrics out. Without EBITDA metrics, sometimes you show a higher loss. So by having those GAAP metrics in there, can help with that adjusted EBITDA. So just lastly, the adjusted EBITDA is a non-GAAP measure of operating performance that is included to communicate the financial performance of activities associated with core operations that support the development, manufacturing, and commercialization of the Joby aircraft. Adjusted EBITDA is defined as the net income loss before interest, income, interest expense, income tax expenses, benefit, depreciation, amortization expense, stock-based compensation expense loss on common stock issuance, and all that just kind of flow again into the EBITDA and to the GAAP ranges. So again, you will see those metric numbers. And yeah, kind of getting down, it looks like some of the upcoming events will be Raymond James, who I think, so you'll hear Sabi most likely on the call, on the Q&A for Raymond James. And for me, I feel like Raymond James, JP Morgan, A.T. Wainwright has actually been asking some good questions as of late. I feel like they've really been tapped into the industry for a few years now on the earnings calls. So they'll be at the Raymond James 47th Annual Institution Investors Conference, the Morgan Stanley Technology, Media, and Telecom Conference, Cantor Fitzgerald Global Technology and Industrial Growth Conference, as well as the JP Morgan Industrial Conference. So continuing to tap in to that, what's the word? Our institutional liquidity that can be out there as well.
Thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
Nah, do you know what? Your throat goes after a while, doesn't it?
No, it didn't.
Guys, I seem to be having problems with the comments. I don't know why YouTube's rejecting my comments. So let me know if that's a problem across any. Well, you probably won't be able to let me know, but I will know.
Let's see.
Joby's up. It was up 4.6%. It's up 3.87%.
Yeah.
After hours, ever since that dropped. What is your most exciting takeaway from that whole report?
Honestly, the projected revenue, because I'm really curious to see, are they looking at that in metrics of what Blade can what Blade can bring in quarter over quarter, which in essence will equal out to the full year? Or are we looking at revenue through any other streams, be it passenger flights? Again, I know we're not the sale of aircraft, so I'm not going to get too far down the line. But just any other metrics, because it doesn't seem with Joby that they're much being one into like we're gonna design parts and sell parts, to other aircraft manufacturers. So I think it will be interesting to see if that's going to be all Blade revenue throughout the year, or if that's going to kind of extend into UAE and potential revenue that they're guiding out for the full year in 26. So me as a money guy, kind of when it comes to this, that's one of the first things that jumped out to me. But what about you, Liam? What you pick up on?
I'm currently trying to fix all.
Yeah, go for
But
no,
what really did jump out to me was they've doubled down. They're saying that they're going for commercial operations inside this year. Now,
true.
Are we going to get a little bit more color on that on the call? Are we going to find out? Are they really? To me, it doesn't matter whether it is revenue generating flights or it is just passengers on board the S4. I think we just need proof of concept passengers on board the S4. If passengers are on board the S4, I'm happy enough with this year finishing out and go for a whole rollout in 2027 when it comes to both the US and the UAE with revenue generating flights. Nice to get the confirmation of the eIPP, but look, we knew Joby would be there. We're still yet to find out what cities are going to be selected under the eIPP program. But we've said the reason why the eIPP is important is that whole public adoption. Again, like we said, we've seen it on the Uber app. It's going to take you seeing it 10, 20 times before you would even think of getting on one of these aircraft. If you've never heard them before, like all of us would be jumping off our seats to get on an S4. But if you've never heard of it before in your life, you need to see one of these fly in. And I think there'd be nothing better than Joby being able to fly in the UAE, even if it wasn't under revenue terms.
Absolutely.
Just even videos online of passengers on board. As you said, people are going to seek flights on these once they see them on the app.
Yeah.
So there's nothing better than being able to pair that up with video evidence of one of these being able to fly with a passenger on board. Bag said it rejected some of mine, but thought there was a new mod or something. I don't know what the problem is, my guy. It's saying that rejected my comment because it thinks it's spam as well. So I don't know what's up. That's why you thought we were against you or something. Nah, Bag, it's happening to me as well. Unless the moderator is blocking me and all. Randy Worm says, what was the income? Let me jump across to it. Do you know off the top of your head?
I think they reported, well, the bringing revenue in was in the 30. Let me just give you factual. And so it was. Okay, so 30.8. Okay, nice. Good call on that.
Right.
What higher than I thought. Honestly, I didn't expect that much revenue. So yeah, higher on that than I thought.
I am gonna share my screen for.
And while you're doing that, Liam, let me just ask you a random question. And again, if anybody can get through in the chat, let me know how you're feeling, or if you've done this before. Liam, have you ever driven in one of those, or have you ever ridden in one of those Waymos or the autonomous vehicles that don't have the driver?
Nah, I've never. Okay. Have you been on one of the autonomous ones?
See, no, I haven't. Apparently they're coming to my area soon, if not getting lightly integrated. But the only reason I bring it up is just again, kind of in that early adoption where, we've kind of heard where, you kind of see it for the first time. It's cool. It has that wow factor. You ride in it, on the ground, maybe a little less nervous than in the air with something, quote unquote, a new mode of transportation. But, I still think for the first ride, it would be a little bit of kind of the shock and awe that it's happening, with also kind of enjoying the experience and kind of experiencing that future of transportation. But by the time I'm taking my fifth ride in it, I don't think, again, it's going to bring that much of the shock and awe. It's going to be more of like, okay, my quote unquote Uber is here. Just does not have the driver, but, I've been in this and used to that. So only folding that into the air taxi network, where again, I think that public adoption, where whether it's seeing them in the skies, seeing them on your app, or just taking that first initial flight, whether again it's offered to you through tourism, or again if it's a point-to-point aircraft, point-to-point airport connecting flight. It'll be very interesting to see just kind of again, and also with Joby having the Toyota backing, I think that can also maybe bring just kind of the kind of name confidence. So again, if somebody has not heard of Joby per se, as a like a Airbus or a Boeing, like an aircraft manufacturer, also having the ability to kind of have Toyota being something that could be modeled either on the aircraft or just kind of be listed under the manufacturer of Joby as well, could maybe bring some of that transportation confidence for that person that's doing the transport on that trip. So that's it.
Right. I really don't know why you guys can't comment. Whatever's happened there, I'm sure YouTube will try and fix that out. But if you can get through, do let us know. How happy are you about the report? Looking at it, the market looks quite happy. We're still up 3.67%. Again, I wouldn't bank on this. I wouldn't be trading it after hours. This all depends on what Joe Ben has to say. And guys, we do know that, no, I'm not going to beat around the bush. Joe Ben is an engineer. Joe Ben is a great CEO, but Joe Ben is not a public speaker. So if this is your first time hearing Joe Ben, your first time coming on one of these earnings calls, don't expect a true salesman. That is good and bad in aspects. It's good in one hand that he's not going to sell you a dream and not achieve it, but at the same time, if you just listen back to something, he might come on, he might be absolutely excellent. Then another one, the Blade CEO, Rob, what is his second name?
I believe it's a W. Not Weisenthal, but I'll get it for you real quick.
Whatever Rob's second name is.
There you go. It was Weisenthal. Yeah, you're on it. Go for it.
He seems to have taken a nice step in the conference calls. He was actually quite active on the most recent one. Now, the only thing is that was just after the acquisition of Blade. Are we going to see him take another front stance in this earnings call, do you believe, or do you think it'll be more Joe Ben doing speaking?
Even from a year ago, my love for Joe Ben is it's just basically grown and grown and grown. So what I saw from Joe Ben, just kind of long story long answer this was, I think he's really done a lot better job with his prepared remarks. So I think you'll probably hear him come in pretty strong, would be my guess, on the prepared remarks. I don't know if we're going to hear Rob so much on the prepared remarks, but again, that's kind of always been that CEO slash founder seat to kind of take that, kind of lead off the call. And then maybe pass that to a CFO or a CTO, depending on who they have on board as well. So with Joby, again, it's a little bit different as Joe Ben kind of wears different hats at the company. He was even kind of in the CFO role for a while, but they were able to secure a full-time CEO. So we'll probably hear those metrics again from the company's CFO. Now, when it comes to the Q&A, I think that's where I start to get interested in what questions Joe Ben is answering, maybe versus the questions that Rob is answering. What I can think I know would be that Rob, being the CEO of Blade, would have more expertise on your point-to-point, again, basically your old school air taxi route through your rotor helis and helicopters. But with that, though, I still will say that for me, Joe Ben's the CEO of Joby, and that's who I would like to see responding to these calls. To these questions, and really to get Joe Ben's perspective, because again, this is like his baby, not just the aircraft, this company. I mean, this is Joe Ben wrapped up into a flying machine, kind of in so many ways. So I really am interested in what Joe Ben's perspective on rolling out, be it either sale or even to the OEM operations, and like really that full circle of the build, the manufacturing, the design, and operations. Because for him, I would have to imagine it has to be quite a dream where you're not only having something that you've designed and built now going through those brick walls of the FAA certification, but now again, if your initial vision was to have that commercial air taxi network, it's like not only is your aircraft coming to vision, your network's coming to vision. So I don't want to hold him to having to answer any questions that, maybe better deflected to Rob or anybody else on the call. But yeah, long answer long. I'd really like to hear Joe Ben kind of tap in and just be raw, honest Joe Ben, even if that means that, we're going to have to just kind of read through some words and figure out, I know I'm not one that speaks perfectly, so I don't want to rag on Joe Ben for, going through a Q&A when he's got the, Raymond James analysts, the top analysts who are then going to write a report on him, an hour after the call, by the next morning on the call, and they're going to be, throwing the questions at him that right now he doesn't know what they're going to be. So he's going to do his best to answer them on the spot. It'd be no different than, Liam, somebody coming to us and being like, okay, we're doing a Hustle Brother earning call, and what do you guys expect to do with this? And it's like, well, just again, as a human, sometimes you just need those 3 to 5 seconds for your brain just to kind of lock in and move forward. But what are you thinking? What's your split on Rob and Joe Ben?
I genuinely think Joe Ben is going to take a lead to this call.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're going to. I don't actually believe we're going to focus too much on what's happened in the last year. I know it's a whole wrap up of the 2025 financial year, but I actually think this call is going to be majorly focused on the future. I think there's too many things happening at the moment that I don't think they're going to get too bogged down in they've achieved X amount of flight hours, etc.
Mm-hmm.
I just think this is the first time we're going to really see it, that look, we are rolling out with passengers on board this year, and I think we're going to hear a lot more details. I think there's a reason why they haven't put a specific date on the shareholder letter. But
I like that.
I could be wrong though.
You know, something that you were kind of touching on, and I'm thinking it's like, just like you said, as you know, we're kind of hearing, you know, where you might hear about the last year. It just kind of made me think, you know, let's take this 5, 10 years ago, like really pre YouTube, pre the like really like retail investment in the retail community. I mean, it's like with this emerging product coming out, I almost think that like these earnings calls are kind of generally like we get like 4 Super Bowls. You know, for us with the NFL Super Bowls, you know, for you guys definitely more the football cups and such. But it's like we get 4 of these a year, and I think this is an awesome platform because this is not going to be where we wake up as investors tomorrow and we're just reading again what Savi felt like she heard on the earnings call, what Bill P felt like he heard, what Amit Dial felt like he heard on the earnings call. It's like we actually get to tap in, be that community, you know, kind of have those early thoughts of what we maybe either hope or would want to hear during the call, maybe have a little bit of that opportunity to be shocked or surprised or inflated, deflated, whichever way it goes. And then to come off the earnings call and actually be able to break that down under a retail investment thesis community. Because again, I think sometimes we're seeing this picture even more clearly than some of the more broader market analysts are seeing this picture. And I think you had something great you had said, Liam, prior. It was either in yesterday's video or one you had done where, you know, the analyst price targets, you know, again, I agree with you. At the beginning, I was kind of taking those, not, you know, saying that they were gold, but it's like, okay, this, you know, this is the analyst price target. It's reached this. Maybe we swing trade, get out, or, you know, re-ratings. And just like you said on, I think you had mentioned too, you know, you can have something where these stocks can come out, get a re-rating tomorrow, and that'll have a general effect on the stock price. But that doesn't necessarily mean that anything grandiose had either happened in the company or anything detrimental had happened in the company if it was a downside rating. So, you know, I definitely implore everybody, you know, when you get done listening to it here, I would say, you know, if you have the time, you know, jump back because this is going to be recorded. So jump back on the channel, go through it. I know for me, I'm going to go through it like 3 to 5 times. I don't expect everybody to go through it that much. But go back through and listen, whether it's the Q&A or a certain question, because you know it's tough to be a listener, an investor, an enthusiast, an analyst, like all at the same time. So we're all about to kind of jump off the deep end, have our listening ears on, you know, for us to have our notebooks out, you know, taking notes, metric numbers, whatever that may be. And then, you know, right after the Q&A ends, we're going to do our best to analyze what that call was. And that's not to say that any of our opinions, whether it's mine, Liam's, anybody in the chat or the community, couldn't wake up tomorrow with an inverse thesis of what they felt like from the call today. Good, bad, bad, good. Either way could go. But I think it's a really exciting time because I would be really curious if these eVTOL companies did not have the ability to basically access the retail community like we're having through a stream like this. Just again, my point is I go back to public adoption. Like if we as investors weren't even aware of what was going on, again, think of that person that's not invested in Joby right now. Do they know what's going on? So anyway, my big point being is I think it's really cool as kind of this whole like mesh together of the eVTOL technology moving forward, kind of more of the tap in, even from the companies themselves, not just wanting to promote on the CNBCs. And I'm sure we'll see Joe Ben probably, you know, tap into a CNBC or, you know, when like a Bloomberg, like a major news network, be it either after the earnings call tonight or tomorrow. I wouldn't be surprised by that at all. But I also wouldn't be surprised to see somebody from Joby or Joe Ben also tap into, you know, the retail community like us and look to basically kind of crowdsource and get their information out to those that have really not just put their time and money, but really their time investment. So I guess I go, so, but not just their thoughts and money, but really their time and their investment into the company. So I think it's been a fun 3 months. I think it's been a fun 6 months. I think it's been a fun year. And I think for all Joby investors, look back at what people said that your company wouldn't or couldn't do a year ago and look at what they're doing now. And I think across the board, we could say they're doing more. They're more efficient. They're flying more. Their production facilities are growing. The cash on hand's growing. I mean, even as we're going through the shareholder letter, I'm not used to reading Joby on a shareholder letter having a 1 billion in front of it. I'm not saying that it has never happened on a shareholder letter or during a quarterly call, but that's not we're typically seeing Joby more in maybe the $700 to $900 million cash on hand rate. So yeah, no, I really like that they're kind of headed out of this with over $1 billion in cash. Personally, I think holding $1 billion is going to be probably about the floor of where these companies will want to sit at, especially going through type certification and the FAA approval, and rolling out into, I would say, the 28 through the 2030s. So just again, as we look at the cash burn and we look at also the catalysts and the progressions that these companies are making, let's always look and see and balance out how much cash is going to be needed to really get us to, as I think we on the channel kind of talk about, what will ultimately be the finish line, as opposed to catalysts along the way, and then also kind of making our way through any of those speed bumps and hurdles that may come their way or show their face. But again, it seems like there's some bipartisan bill acts combined with the eIPP. This is the first. Oh, I was like, is it going? I was like,
No.
this is the first earnings call that would be coming. I wouldn't say since the release of the eIPP, but being so close to the eIPP. So that's again, and I know it's something, like you say with the L3 Harris, I would love to hear more about what that partnership is and what their hybrid VTOL aircraft could or would be used for on that defense tech. And maybe we won't hear that. But again, if I'm correct, to be a part of the eIPP, you did have to have a defense partnership as basically one of your like check marks to apply for the eIPP as well. So them having an L3 Harris is definitely critical for them, as far as I know, being involved in the eIPP and then rolling out into program of records, which again, we know that the revenue from commercial ops are going to be in this bucket and maybe of a specific range and a specific TAM through certain years, 28, 30, 32, 35, as opposed to that program record and the defense revenue that, again, for any of these companies, and we'll talk Joby, could come at any time, as they've had their 2 aircraft at, correct me if I'm wrong, Edwards. And so they've had the 2 aircraft there, and being able to, not just show out and prove the tech to themselves in-house at the company, but also to be doing this under the AFWERX program that they, were working under previously as well. So yeah, I don't know, a lot to look forward to, but I know I'm talking a lot. So you got anything, Liam?
Yeah, I've got something there. Do you know the
Yeah.
reason why we can't comment, guys? Because some agent has come in and reported us all for spam. So, so now we can't comment in our own stream because we've been reported for spam, and we've got a heap of dislikes too on the video.
Interesting.
So I wonder where that's coming from. But yeah, do you know what? Let's keep it positive, guys. Some of you will be able to comment. If you haven't been reported for spam, you will be able to comment. Do you know what? It is what it is.
And just as a side note, I will keep my DM area open if anybody wants to send something through. I think Max is right there. I think Liam's got his open, but just open my door as well. Just saying, if you want any comment, if you got any thought, send it over, man. We'll read it. We'll let you know who it was sent over from, and that way, we don't get you feeling left out because of human error that seemed to have taken place while the 2 humans running it are right here, and yada yada.
I was
but
wondering,
all's good.
At one stage we were at like 300 people, yeah, and then all of a sudden it just done a massive drop off, and then there was rejected for spam. But I went to YouTube help and asked them why.
Okay, very nice.
And it's because we've been reported for spamming, and anyone that has been reported for spamming. So, guys, that wasn't on our end. Whoever,
we'll get you back. We'll get you back.
Yeah, we will get you back. Look, we're 10 minutes away. We have what? We're up 2.04%. We're over that $10 range.
Yeah.
This is one of those. If Joe Ben presents this well, this could be a catalyst to send the whole industry flying up, and we're going to bounce off each other. Joby, I'd love to see us climb back over that $12 range in the near term and hold a base there. We seem to, for the last few weeks, been bouncing in between the $10 and $9 range. I don't feel like we're going to go any lower. I think this is it. We're getting mass accumulation of institutes across this whole eVTOL sector, but Joby in particular, and Archer as well. We've had mass accumulation. Volume seems to be quite nice. Volume today was 31 million, where the average is 23.
Nice.
So,
and we may have an EPS beat. So we'll definitely, I know sometimes it can be a little weird right as it comes out. But right now I'm getting reported a minus 0.14, so 14 cents, minus 14 cent EPS. Now we were projected at a loss of 23 cents earnings per share. So again, we can dive deeper. That's a metric of shares outstanding and basically how they calculate that out, especially with a pre-profitable company. But as the metrics show, right now we have a beat on the EPS. So we'll keep you updated there. But I like that so far.
Everything's going green, guys. Everything's going green. Joby Aviation seem to be delivering as they always do.
That is true. You know, that's one thing I can say about Joby, that, you know, they do always seem to deliver. Every quarter, it seems like they show up with new milestones, and then throughout the quarter, you know, flight data. I like actually where they had in the shareholder letter that they are looking to get, and correct me if I'm wrong, Liam, but they're looking to get the FAA pilots on board basically ASAP to get that test data. And I think, again, that is, it's so many words, but that's so beautiful to see that sort of progression. Because again, I go back 6 months or a year ago and either think what you were not seeing yet at Joby or what you were hearing would not happen at Joby. Well, we get a shareholder letter today that says, hey, by the way, guys, we're going to be having some FAA pilots on board, you know, in due time. I don't want to put the timestamp on that, but lightly said, moving in the right direction here, guys. Like, you know, I'm not necessarily finding the blemishes per se on anything that's come out so far. You know, I think in this, you know, in this industry, it's always easy to want more and to want it quicker. But maybe that's life in general.
It's want more, want it quicker, but we don't know what we want, because there's no, like, genuinely, like, if you spoke to the average Archer or Joby investor, they want all this stuff to happen, everything to come to fruition quickly. But when you ask them to explain what they necessarily want, then when you actually break down the steps required, then it's like, well, we actually are on the path to commercialization. It's not just flick of a switch and away we go, we just start flying.
And with that, Liam, if I could ask you a random question, apples to bananas here, and you don't have to give too much information on it, but it's going to be kind of a Rocket Lab type question, okay?
Yeah.
So I was talking with a buddy of mine yesterday, real close friend. Shout out, Matt. Hope you're listening. I don't know if you are, but I hope you're listening, my guy. I told you to listen. I hope you're listening. Anyways, love you, guy. We were talking the other day or yesterday, and he was just basically feeling like he was late to the party. You know what I mean? In so many words, by saying, oh, you know, it's basically saying great that I had got the head start on the shares and yada, yada, and all this stuff. And I'm like, Matt, it's not too late. And again, this is me talking to my buddy. This is not the, you know, the financial advice for anybody, but I was kind of explaining to him just kind of my thoughts on Rocket Lab, where I don't have the time frame when it was sitting in that $4 range. So that's why I kind of lean on you just for that expertise in it. But Yeah, sure. There were some people that picked up shares of Rocket Lab a day before it jumped to 15 and then more, and it jumped and jumped and jumped. But that was not every investor. I'm sure there was many investors there, and I don't know the full chart on Rocket Lab, whether it had like pumps to 7, drawbacks to 8, drawbacks to 4, all that.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so
So
kind of weathering
there was
those
at one
clouds.
stage we went up $20 and came all the way back down to 8.
Yeah.
But guys, yeah, like speaking of that, you need to look at the market cap of the companies and actually start projecting where you believe you can see this industry going. Like, if you honestly believe this can be $1 trillion industry and the likes of Joby are going to have their share in this, well, start projecting the market cap. Then just do a simple multiplier on where you see the stock price will be. Then, yes, you can put in dilution, etc., but just do it in simple terms for now. Joby Aviation, it's not going to matter whether you got it at $4 or you got it at $6. Or it's not going to matter whether you got it at $9, you got it at $11 when we're sitting at 120. Because genuinely, I look at my shares now and I remember those days where we came out of the 450 range and we're pushing up over the $6 with Rocket Lab. And I remember I thought, there's no way I can buy shares for like $7.50.
Right.
And it's like, no, guys, like, don't I wish I bought them for $7.50? We're sitting at like $70 now, and like we were all the way up in the $90 range. So
absolutely,
this is one sector you are not too early. You're not too early. I think for the next 5 years, you're not too early.
True. That's true.
We are extremely early, if anything. And I just want people to understand that this whole industry is not, it's not quarter by, or it's not in the next quarter or the quarter after that the big moves are going to happen. The big moves are going to happen over the next 3 to 5 to 10 years. And when you look back at it, it's going to seem like it's quick. But at the moment, when you're sitting through the whole process, it does seem long. But look, we were sitting here a year ago speaking about FAA certification. We're here, another year is gone. When you're in the middle of it seems long. But look, we've been going for about 2 years now, and it doesn't feel like 2 years. So, look, you're never too early, my guys.
And you know what, Liam, you just kind of made me think. And again, macro is always going to play into the beta and all that. So it's just interesting where, has anything gotten worse in Joby than it was last November when it was selling for 18, 19, almost $20 a share? Like, has anything in the company gotten worse? I don't think so. I would say the company has only progressed further since then. So instead of today, me having $20 in my pocket, getting 1 share of Joby, the market has allowed me to get 2 shares of Joby today for that price. So, it's
I can guarantee you when we're back at $20, we're gonna have everyone in the chat saying, "Oh, I'd buy it all if it goes to 15 again." And it's like, you have the opportunity now.
That's so
and
true.
The amount of people we speak to, and it's like, if it goes down another 5%, I'll buy it. It's like, what is 5%? Really, what is 5% when we just accelerate? So if you're not happy with your position, I always believe, think of what you can do to accumulate the shares now. Don't think of anything that is out of your control. Such as, no, we're still there. Such as share price. We can't determine what happens with share price. You can determine your income by actually exerting yourself, guys. So let's get rid of what we can't control and focus more on what we can control. At the moment, you just want to accumulate shares of Joby. You want to own Joby as a company. So it doesn't matter what price you get it at.
Hey, isn't that crazy? It's like I know a lot of people here are gonna see this as very obvious, but I mean you're literally buying shares of a company. Like you are an owner of this company. Just because me specifically, I'm not a 5% holder in any specific stock, having the voting rights, that doesn't mean that I'm not still a shareholder in these companies. And that again has not just my time and money invested, that's my head invested, that's family future invested. There, a lot of things kind of play into it. And yeah, no, I agree with Liam. I think they're exciting times, and they'll be the complicated times to come where we'll have certain catalysts that will spike the price up, and then the thought of, are we buying into strength because it will go higher than that, or are we pausing because general retracement can happen? But again, there is no crystal ball on the market. So I can't tell you if Joby jumps to 20 that it's going to fall back down to 15. And I can't tell you if it jumps to 15 tomorrow, it's going to close the year at 20. But if even from now, any share that was bought this year in a $10 range, if Joby was to close the year even at $15, and you can even take that to $20, you're literally having a 50 to 100% return on your money. And depending how the S&P ends up playing out this year with the midterm elections and such, I think people are trying to find specific pockets to be able to really find the liquidity that they're looking for in 2026 for their investment portfolios. And there's not been a lot of places to hide your money. But the year is early. So I think that's something for me, again, as I've continued to learn, is to be the patient investor and be okay, again, whether it's Joby versus Archer, Archer versus Joby, Horizon, or the eVTOLs versus a Google, or a Palantir. Just because I see Palantir rip 7% in a day, I don't have to feel bad that I didn't buy a Palantir share the day before and I was buying Joby shares the day before. That's okay, because the roulette wheel of the market, it seems to come around, and we'll have those, conversations and kind of climatic what to do conversations and thoughts, as they spike. And if you're swing trading, you may find those opportunities. But like Liam said, if you're a long-term holder, I think, again, you look at what you project out as a possible percentage of TAM that Joby can acquire within inside of this market. So even if it's at the lower range of the $135 billion projected TAM, you look at 40% of that, rough top of the head of the math, 100 million would be 40. So 40% of 35 is going to be 37.50. So, I mean, you're basically looking at like around 65 to 70 million dollars of a TAM, billion dollars of revenue coming in right there, which again, you already put basically a 6x multiplier on the market cap in which the company sits at today. Now, again, I'm speaking 2030 low end projected TAMs. There's also 2030, 2035, the $1 trillion projected TAMs, and we don't know where they're going to fall. But again, not to be redundant, what I'm seeing is continuous vertiport build out, the metropolis, like you mentioned, Liam, having that continue to have. And again, that to me, it almost seems so obvious, but such a great move where you have these parking structures where somebody will be able to leave their car behind if they're self-transporting themselves to a vertiport. If you're having your Uber, you're probably gonna have a designated Uber line that's gonna take you right basically to go passenger to your aircraft. Just kind of general thoughts, or even as Rob and Jobin kind of had spoke about on the last call with Blade, where they really want your experience as you're either boarding or waiting to board your S4 be it this luxury experience. So also kind of building out, again, I know I'm using the word experience again, but building out that experience within inside of the infrastructure that you'll be taking off and landing. So again, maybe it'll be something where you'll have that place where you might want to, maybe you want to catch your Uber 20 minutes early and grab a drink at the Blade bar, whatever it might be, and then head off on your flight, or maybe after you land before you hit your business trip or whatever it may be, or whatever you're flying into town for, kind of having that lounge experience as you land as well. So again, not saying that we have to count every single mixed drink as part of the revenue and the market cap of it, but growing the experience of what flying in a Joby S4 can and will be. I again, I don't have the crystal ball, but I think we're on a path to really figuring out a way to find success within inside of this industry.
Guys, quickly before we jump across to this call, anyone that can't comment, that is because we got an attack by someone that has reported us all for spam. so you probably won't be able to comment. But I want to tell you, we're officially the largest eVTOL channel on YouTube. We have the largest stream going right now.
Big
Do
credit
bang
to
that
you guys.
subscribe button. I will do a giveaway after the earnings call. You have to be subscribed and smash that like button. Let's just show them spammers that
That's
we're
right.
not spam. We just need to we need to show them.
That's right. I like that.
Any
Liam.
minute now, we will have Joe Ben speaking, guys. Oh, do you know what? I'm gassed for this one. I'm excited.
No,
It's
I agree,
been so long
man.
since we've had a positive one, you know.
That that is true, and this is again the year. I'll just frame it the year of positivity in the eVTOL industry, and I know I've talked about the communities coming together, so I won't harp on that too much, but the year of positive news, year of the emerging catalysts. Again, we've talked about it for a few weeks, but I mean, literally, we're like a week and a day away from announcements of the eIPP. And again, not to be overbearing on that, we spoke on the show that that's not the end all and be all. But I mean, guys, look what's folding into place. And again, I'm only regurgitating what I'm thinking community thesis might be in this. But also throughout the summer, it'll be very interesting to see, because I feel like Joby's also leaned into the PR aspect on this as well. So not just also with them tapping into the retail shareholder base, maybe getting that opportunity to speak with some of the Joby engineers, maybe somebody that wants to come on and explain the Geeks charging network and kind of the intricacies and the importance of why Joby is going with that sort of charging structure. I think that would be great for the community to hear here. And basically again, my bigger point is to see where they're continuing to conduct these survey flights. So even like you look at the partnership that they did with help me out, Liam, it's in the UK. Is it dubbed Virgin Atlantic? Because I know there's like Atlantic, because there's 2 subsidiaries in there. So I mean, very interesting to see again what does start to come with that. And even if that's not in 2026, like we saw at Fuji, could we start to see some just general, I'll call it racetracks, test tracks type flights that are coming out of the UK? Like for you guys, Liam, I'll lump you into the UK. I apologize for that. But just for, again, being on kind of the other end of the Atlantic, being able to see those eVTOLs in action. And again, even if those are marketed out as like a Virgin Atlantic type of aircraft, even if it's for a general PR or marketing sense, I think to me, that's not showing that they're just kind of blowing smoke and we're just going to put a video out to put it out. Is that, no, we have this partner and across the Atlantic, and this is who we're partnering with and who will also be involved in the MOUs and the possible sale of the aircraft as well. So yeah, I think again, it's going to be really exciting to see what they do with these flights through 26. Any expansion on the hybrid propulsion, the VTOL unit that they're working on. And because I know I say working on because it's kind of like behind the wraps, even though we get some pictures on it and such. I don't know. I was gonna, just like you said, the excitement for it, Liam. I was kind of holding myself back from saying this is the most important eVTOL call yet, because I was really thinking last eVTOL call was the most important, and we had said that for 1 or 2, and which was true. Yeah. But I was kind of giving the companies a little bit of a break per se, and kind of being not too hard on them. And, again, we try to follow everything we do on a day-to-day and week-to-week basis and fill everybody in. And I know everybody does a great job filling us in as well. And big thank you on that. And so, yeah, it's something where, it's like we've gotten through 25. We know that what they can do. And so let's go ahead and prove it to all the non-believers on the 2026 side. And yeah, let's pilot these aircraft. Let's build a few more aircraft. Let's maybe see if we can get the FAA pilot, flying around in one of these aircraft. And again, this L3 Harris, let's see what that may fold out to be. And again, the hybrid propulsion, that's going to be an interesting thing as well. As again, right now it seems like the battery tech is what we'll be moving forward in, but with any, will Joby look to do any IP expansion over the next few years? And again, they've spoke that they can do longer range already, I would say. So they may not need to acquire any other IP to really fulfill the missions in which they're going for. But it will be interesting to see, as they continue to progress through their 20 to 30 minute air taxi route, basically market flights and grabbing that flight data. Are they going to open the envelope for testing expansion and having multiple extended range flights through 2026, and maybe seeing what tech of that can come as we continue to progress down the line? So maybe I said it too quick that this wouldn't be the most important, but now I've kind of turned the corner after getting excited and doing the pre-show on it, where I'm gonna go out and say it. Most important earnings call for Joby, yeah, as of yet.
I don't know how, but Bagger Holden seems to be
He's
getting his
back.
comments across.
He's
I'm
back.
not flagged
Nice.
or being framed.
Your frame
I
back.
literally have Joby up 4.3% after hours. I have just so many different comments that can't get through. Yeah, and I've put like 3 or 4 testings and hi. Nah, it's not working. Guys, do smash that like button. See if we can break through this. I don't even know what to call it. Masking us, hiding us. I don't know what they want to do.
Blocking wall.
Blocking wall, yeah.
Yeah, this is our FAA brick wall, but we'll bust through it. If Joby can bust through it, I think the Hustle Brothers can bust through it too. We got this. But no, really.
I just want to do
please
test
do.
on sound. Can you hear the sound when it comes through?
Yes, sir. Can do. And then, are you gonna hit the official mute on us when it?
Yeah. So I'll mute us too.
Okay, I like that.
Once it
Let me
goes through.
just refresh my X really quick as well. I'm gonna see. I'm curious. I'm just gonna look at Uber real quick. I want to say
Dominic got through. Did you see mine about eIPP?
Hey,
Dominic, no, sorry, mate.
Send
can
again.
You see if you can send it again? Guys, we seem to be getting comments through again.
I like that.
Dominic, see if you can get your comment through to us.
Well, how's this, Liam? When you go on, and this is on Hood, so they put the tip ranks, Bazinga, Sherwood News, all those kind of stories up. So I just went to search Uber. I was just curious when their earnings call was, because I wasn't sure if it had just. Yeah, I knew that felt like it had just passed us. But second article from Bazinga inside the Uber ticker is what is going on with Joby Aviation stock today, and actually. Article number 3 is Joby announces plans to offer air taxi.
Thank you for joining us for Joby Aviation's fourth quarter and fiscal year 2025 financial results conference call. I'm Teresa Thurthiel, Joby's head of investor relations.
2026 will mark a key inflection point for Joby. After a year full of rigorous full transition flight testing and meaningful progress across proof that our rigorous approach to design and certification is paying off. On certification, more generally, we continue to make excellent progress, posting a record company, a PIF-backed local operator, to establish a test zone for pre-commercial operations in Saudi Arabia. We signed a letter. We've raised nearly $1.8 billion, which combined with our existing cash balance, gives us the capital we need to deliver on our plans for scaling production. And 2026 promises to be a very special year for Joby and for our wider sector. America has been a world leader in aerospace innovation since the Wright brothers round.
Given the maturity of our program, government support, global demand for our technology, and our plans to ramp manufacturing, we took the opportunity to strengthen our balance sheet during the fourth quarter and after. We raised approximately $1.8 billion in net proceeds across Q4 and Q1, and we have positioned the company with the capital required to drive the next phase of execution and scale. This additional capital bolsters our balance sheet, giving us additional flexibility to advance certification, manufacturing ramp, and commercial readiness without being reactive to short-term market conditions. At the same time, we will continue to allocate capital deliberately. Balance sheet strength does not eliminate discipline, it reinforces it. Now, I'll present our fourth quarter and full year financial results in more detail. We ended the fourth quarter of 2025 with cash equivalents, and short-term investments totaling $1.4 billion, including $586 million raised through the quarter, reflecting net proceeds from our equity offering and ATM sales. After the quarter ended, we completed a financing that provided net proceeds of approximately $1.2 billion, further strengthening our cash reserves and positioning us well as we enter 2026. The fundraising attracted both existing shareholders such as Baillie Gifford and Morgan Stanley Investment Management, and new shareholders with several institutions committing capital across both the equity and the convertible offerings. Our Q4 use of cash equivalents, and short-term investments totaled $157 million compared to $147 million in Q3. The $10 million increase was primarily driven by continued investment in certification and manufacturing readiness, including higher program spend to support TIA-related activity, market development activities, along with normal working capital movements and timing of supplier payments. Included in the quarter was approximately $40 million of property and equipment investment, reflecting facility build-out, tooling, and production equipment, as well as a $3 million investment in our first fully conforming FAA-qualified flight simulator developed in partnership with CAE. The simulator is a mandatory component of certification in Part 135 approval, and because aircraft cannot be sold without an approved pilot training solution, it is directly tied to our ability to generate future revenue. Importantly, FAA-qualified simulators take years to develop and require deep aircraft data integration. We began this work in 2022 to ensure the time of delivery would be aligned with our entry into service timeline. We plan to add a second full-motion simulator later this year as we expand the Joby Flight Academy and build a strong pipeline of pilots to support high-volume commercial operations. This is a great example of how we are deploying capital thoughtfully, holistically, and with a long-term perspective. For the full year 2025, use of cash equivalents, and short-term investments totaled $539 million, which was within our full-year guidance, a testament to our capital deployment discipline. The use of cash in 2025 includes the impact of the Blade acquisition and integration costs. On a GAAP basis, we reported a Q4 net loss of $122 million, a $280 million improvement compared to $401 million net loss in Q3. The quarter-over-quarter improvement was largely driven by $302 million related to a favorable non-cash warrant and earn-out revaluation, partially offset by $25 million in higher loss of operations and the netting of miscellaneous items. As a reminder, the fair value revaluation of warrants and earn-out shares is driven primarily by changes in our share price and can introduce significant non-cash volatility each quarter. Revenue for the fourth quarter was $31 million, an $8 million increase from Q3, mostly driven by recognizing a full quarter of Blade revenue. The Blade portion of Q4 revenue was $21 million, and other revenue was $10 million, reflecting a one-time non-recurring revenue of about $8 million pertaining to our demonstration flights in Japan for the Toyota event in December. Total operating expenses for the fourth quarter, which include Blade, were $238 million compared to $204 million in Q3. The $34 million quarter-over-quarter increase was primarily driven by higher certification manufacturing spend, continued staffing to support program milestones, and a full quarter of Blade operating expenses. Adjusted EBITDA, a non-GAAP metric that we reconcile to net income in our shareholder letter, was a loss of $154 million in the fourth quarter, compared to a loss of $133 million in the third quarter, or a $21 million increase in loss on a quarter-over-quarter basis. The sequential change reflects the revenue and expense dynamics I described before. As we move into 2026, our approach to capital is disciplined and milestone-driven. We are managing our spending to optimize for certification progress, production ramp, and commercial readiness. With our full year 2025 results complete, we are updating how we guide cash usage. For 2026, we will guide on a half-year basis, which better reflects where we are with the program. We are transitioning from early-stage production into repeatable manufacturing. As we move up the production S-curve, investment decisions increasingly depend on ramp performance, supplier readiness, tooling deployment, and operational sequencing. We see this as a natural and positive phase of scale. For the first half of 2026, we expect to use $340 to $370 million in cash, excluding approximately $33 million for one-time purchase of the Ohio building we plan to use for manufacturing. The majority of first-half cash usage supports core S4 certification and manufacturing readiness. A smaller portion represents investments that can be sequenced based on milestone progress and commercialization time. Our recent fundraising enhanced our cash position to execute this plan at pace. As Joby stated, we have many timely opportunities this year, including carrying our first passengers in Dubai and opportunities to begin commercialization in the United States in up to 5 states as part of the eIPP program. Air certification progresses, production ramps, and commercialization accelerates. We have the flexibility to stage levels of spend while maintaining capital discipline. Following our acquisition of Blade's passenger business last year, we are now providing full-year revenue guidance. For 2026, we expect total revenue in the range of $105 to $150 million, with the vast majority generated by Blade. The Blade passenger business has operated seamlessly since closing, with consistent service levels and customer demand. 2026 will remain a year of testing, learning, and continued integration into Joby the third quarter during the summer months. We are focused on maintaining operational consistency as we prepare over time to expand the service to incorporate electric air taxis. As we enter 2026, our priorities are clear: advance certification, scale manufacturing responsibly, prepare for commercial launch, deploy capital deliberately. We believe this approach allows Joby to continue to lead the market with both speed and discipline. Thank you for your continued support. Operator, please open the call for questions.
Certainly. We'll now be conducting a question and answer session. If you'd like to be placed in the question queue, please press star 1 on your telephone keypad. We ask you please ask one question and one follow-up, then return to the queue. If you'd like to remove yourself from the queue, please press star 2. One moment, please, while we poll for questions. Our first question is coming from Andres Sheppard from Cantor Fitzgerald. Your line is now live.
Hey everyone, this is Anandan for Andres. Regarding your revenue guidance for this year, I was wondering, can you give us a sense of how this is comprised? Is this almost all from Blade, and should we expect some seasonality around quarters?
Yes, thanks for the question. Yes, mostly Blade, like I said in the prepared remarks. And in terms of seasonality, it will peak during the summer months, particularly in Q3. One way to think about it, when you look at historically, Q2 plus Q3 together will be typically around 60 to 65% of the revenue mix.
Got it. Thank you. And secondly, you're guiding cash of use of about 355 million at the midpoint for the first half. And I realize you're not guiding for the year, but I'm wondering if you can help share how we should think about the second half since you're ramping up production. Should we expect a higher cash burn in the second half?
Well, we are transitioning from a prototype manufacturing into a repeatable scaled production. That's primarily the reason that we are guiding. And let me elaborate. We are entering a production S-curve, and productivity improves with each unit we produce. But we are very early in that ramp, and forecasting the exact slope is challenging and less precise. Because of that, we do have visibility into the first half, so we are providing a high integrity first half baseline instead of a full year with the early stage and less precise assumptions. As we progress and accumulate serial production data, we'll gain greater precision on the second half, and we'll update later in the year as we get the ramp data developed.
Thank you. Our next question is coming from Chris Pierce from Needham & Company. Your line is now live.
Hey, good afternoon. There seems to be this idea out there that the S4 could maybe underwhelm from a passenger or luggage payload perspective. I kind of wanted to give you a chance to kind of comment around that. And when you take your test flights, are you putting extra weight in there to confirm sort of the payload that the aircraft can carry? Or is it kind of coming from a mathematical equation at this time? And then how does BAG's VIP fit into this equation as well?
Thanks, Chris. This is Joe Ben. So we're really pleased with the way the aircraft has come together. Again, the aircraft that we are preparing to fly is the first aircraft that in the eVTOL category that has been built and is preparing for TIA flight tests. And we think this is a monster milestone both for Joby and for the industry. In terms of the capabilities, we've designed this aircraft for service around the metropolitan cities that we're hoping to serve, operating it, for example, layered into the Blade service. And we are very excited about its ability to serve that market. And in terms of the payload of the aircraft, that is something that we expect to, we've designed the aircraft for a pilot and for passengers, and that's our target. It may take us a bit of time to evolve into that, but we are very pleased with the performance and very excited about beginning the TIA flight test.
Okay, and thank you for that. On the eIPP commentary that you gave, I just want to understand, is there a chance for passenger flight in the U.S., or is that something investors shouldn't be looking for, or is that sort of up in the air based on what you hear back in the next couple of weeks from the FAA?
We've been hearing, very positive inclinations on that. Again, that may phase in over time, but we see the eIPP as a massive opportunity, and we're very, very excited to be hearing more news very shortly on that from the FAA.
Thank you. As a reminder, that's star one to be placed into question queue. And please ask one question, one follow-up, then return to the queue. Our next question is coming from Kristine Liwag from Morgan Stanley. Your line is now live.
Hi, everyone. This is Jason on for Kristine tonight. So Joby's been working closely with the FAA on air traffic control to be able to support higher volume in the airspace once we see eVTOLs receive FAA certification. Can you discuss your role in helping to solve this issue with the FAA and maybe provide some context on what's been solved already versus what work remains in progress? Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Jason. This is Paul. I'll pick this one up. Look, we are very excited about the now sort of bipartisan effort to modernize the way that air traffic control is managed. As you know, there was $12.5 billion that's been allocated as a sort of first tranche against that. And look, I think the majority of that is going to go to shoring up the existing system that we have. But the push that we've been making alongside others in the industry is to ensure that there is an opportunity for some of that money to go to next-gen air traffic control. Essentially, a system that would start with computers deconflicting the airspace, and then the human steps in only if there's some sort of issue that's going on. We think that has huge implications for commercial aviation across the US. I mean, we really do think that we should treat our airspace as a national asset, and maximizing its utility should be the name of the game. If we can bring down separations, that will increase safety, increase volume for both us and everyone else that's operating that airspace. And we do think that eVTOL has an important role to play. This is a category that is going to be operating from non-traditional airports, where you don't have to worry about legacy equipage because there's not a big existing fleet. So therefore, we think it's the perfect test ground for some of these new air traffic control concepts. And we've been working with partners across the industry, including some of the folks that have been sort of tasked with the overall ATC modernization effort, to work on the right sort of approach on that front. Now, look, we think there's tons of runway with the existing aircraft, trained pilots in seat using the existing airspace. But if we have an opportunity to help push the ball forward on a better air traffic control system, we absolutely want to be a part of that.
Thanks, Paul. I'll leave it there. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Our next question is coming from Austin Moeller from Canaccord Genuity. Your line is now live.
Hi, good afternoon. So just my first question here. I guess you're expecting to fly the first conforming aircraft shortly. I know there were 5 others still in different phases of construction. So I'd love an update on what phases of assembly those are all in.
Hey, Austin, thank you for the question. This is Joe Ben again. Really pleased with the momentum that the manufacturing team is building. You can expect to see those, the cadence of those coming off the line with increasing regularity over the next few quarters. But really, really pleased to see the maturity of the manufacturing line and the maturity of the conforming processes improving each and every day. And huge shout out to the team. So proud of the work that they've done and the work they're doing. And also a shout out to all the DERs and DARs who have been doing phenomenal work, and also to the Toyota team members who are working shoulder to shoulder alongside of us, both here and abroad.
Okay. And as we think about the FAA pilots starting for credit tests later this year, how should we be thinking about the FAA accepting the remaining 3% of the means of compliance? Would that happen around the same time period as that? How should we think about the cadence there?
I think those elements are decoupled, but I think the really key element to highlight, and something that maybe we don't spend as much time on, is how vitally important all of the component and system level ground testing is. So in parallel to building the conforming aircraft for flight test, which gets a lot of attention, the team and the vertical integration that we've built on our testing process is a real superpower that we have, and the team has just been knocking out of the park. So this is on the manufacturing side and on the testing side. Manufacturing, building conforming test articles, and these test articles are frequently substantially harder to build than the flight articles because they have designed in defects that have to get very prescriptively built that are different than the normal manufacturing flow. And then those test articles with those designed-in defects get tested according to very rigorous test plans that we've already agreed to with the FAA. Another thing that is really worth pointing out is the 18-point increase on the FAA side of stage 4. This was a monumental achievement, the most progress that the FAA has ever delivered in a quarter for us. We're so grateful. It is a testament to the massive lean in and the attention that we've been getting, and also all the hard work that the Joby certification team has done up front to prepare all of these, all the certification work and the test plans.
Thank you. Our next question today is coming from David Zazula from Barclays. Your line is now live. Hello, David. Your line is live. Perhaps your phone is on mute. Our next question is coming from Savi Syth from Raymond James. Your line is now live.
Hey, good afternoon. If I might, with the commercial operations anticipated in Dubai, I was wondering if you could share kind of general timelines and milestones that are being targeted for this year.
Thank you so much, Savi. So the work is going really well in Dubai. The partnership with the RTA and the work with all of the regulatory bodies in Dubai and the UAE has been going very well. As you may have heard, we had a phenomenal event in Dubai today where we announced the integration, our integration of the Joby air taxi service into the Uber app, and that was a really phenomenal example of the lean-in that we're seeing from all of our partners. So that Uber, Delta, and Toyota are leaned in to a degree which they've never been leaned in before. I think this is one of the things that really makes Joby special, is the strength of the partners we have and the degree to which they're behind us and excited about what we're building and excited to be shaping the future of transportation together.
Okay, and maybe if I could follow up on just the payload comment in that it may take time to evolve. Is that a software kind of evolution, or is that like just a battery evolution to solve for that?
I would say that there are both elements there, and as well as other upgrades that we expect to happen over time.
Thank you. Next question today is coming from Amit Dayal from H.C. Wainwright. Your line is now live.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. So, Joby, just on the UAE passenger flight expectations for the end of the year, like what certification requirements need to be followed to accomplish that?
So this work is layering on top of all the work that we're doing for our FAA certification. So completing all of those component and system ground tests that I'm talking about, and also building aircraft that are conforming and which we're ready to put paying passengers in. So we have all the pieces in place. As I said, the relationship with the regulators in Dubai and the UAE are really strong, and we think we're in a great position there. So yeah, we think that we're very, very excited. And I would also highlight that, you know, in addition to Dubai this year, one of the reasons we're ramping manufacturing is because of the incredible demand that we expect to see from the eIPP local markets here in the U.S.
Understood. And then with respect to the vertiport build out, here or in the UAE and other markets, how much of the capex will be shouldered by folks who are already sort of the developers, I guess? And do you need to, or does Joby need to contribute to some of that investment as well?
This is Paul. On the UAE specifically, all of the infrastructure is being built out in conjunction with the folks over at RTA. So you've seen, I think, the two sites that are currently well underway in terms of development, and there are a number of more that are also sort of coming online in that particular market. When it comes to the broader infrastructure question, in markets outside of the UAE, look, we've got a firm footing of existing infrastructure that we can take advantage of from day one. Actually, post the Blade acquisition, Blade has staffed 10 plus locations, many of which are in the eIPP geographies. So, or what we expect to be the sort of eIPP geographies. So that's a really great place to sort of begin those operations. Now, we announced additional partners where there will be opportunities to leverage their resources just this quarter. So Metropolis was announced, and we're going to be developing 25 additional sites with them. That's a large parking garage owner. They have almost 5,000 parking garages across the US, with many of those in these eIPP markets that we're going to be targeting in the short term. So we're going to be working with them to build the next leg of scale of infrastructure sort of beyond that. There may be certain sites where we're using our own capital, but we're going to be really thoughtful and lean far more on the developer ecosystem. And what's been really exciting, I should mention, particularly post eIPP, is that we now have sort of approximate date certain for eVTOL operations in some of these geographies. So we've had a real pull from developers or potential real estate partners that want to kind of get ahead of that sort of rollout. So more news soon on that front.
Thank you. Our next question today is coming from David Zazula from Barclays. Your line is now live.
Hey, thanks for taking my question. Sorry about the difficulties earlier. Could you talk about the aircraft deployment plan this year, including for those in production, where you're planning on deploying and what the expected use is?
Thank you, David. So as I spoke about, I think the massive challenge that sits before us is the manufacturing ramp that we're engaged in, and it's going to be a very significant lift. This is to get the TI aircraft built, and then to deliver aircraft for Dubai and aircraft for the eIPP program. But the most important piece, as I touched on, was completing the build on all the test articles. And so that really takes precedence on the manufacturing line, is ensuring that each of those test articles is coming out in a timely way, because that's the gate to getting FAA pilots onto the aircraft. So that's kind of the sequencing you can think about, but it is a huge lift that the manufacturing team is working through, is to get that manufacturing ramp, to build those test articles, and then to build the aircraft for Dubai and the eIPP.
Very helpful. And then could I ask on the Uber side, how has the integration been on the Blade front? Have there been any challenges there? And then what do you think about the commercial opportunity with respect to that integration, in this year and maybe into next?
Hey, it's Rob Wiesenthal, CEO of Blade. Thanks for the question. When this integration gets deployed, which we hope first half this year, when you want to get to the airport, you just have to kind of think about your Blade, not how you get to the departure lounge. It's simple and seamless, and you just literally you book your Blade on the Uber app, and an Uber ground vehicle picks you up and brings you straight to a Blade lounge. You check in, and you're off on your 5 to 10 minute flight in New York to JFK or Newark. And we not only expect that this is going to result in growth for Blade Airport, but as important in the not too distant future, that helicopter icon on that vehicle selector, which will be a helicopter to start, will be swapped for a Joby eVTOL. And this is a competitive advantage that no other eVTOL OEM has. So we're really excited about it.
Thank you. I'd like to turn the floor back over to Teresa for further questions.
Thanks, Kevin, and thanks to all the analysts who asked questions today. This week, we invited members of our Reddit community to send in questions as well. We covered many of these already, but I'd like to get in at least one more if we can. And that question is, what's going on with respect to military and medical applications? How is Joby involved? Paul, do you want to take this one, please?
Sure. Yeah, so when we think about the overall eIPP footprint that's really set to get announced in just a few weeks, we know that there are going to be three components of that. One is going to be cargo, one is going to be medical, and the other is going to be passenger. And we intend to obviously deliver aircraft against each of those use cases in as many of the eIPP sites as we're able to deliver against. We think the medical opportunity is a significant, interesting sort of adjacency, and frankly, one that has important community impact. So we want to make sure that we prioritize it alongside, obviously, these other two opportunities as well. Regarding the defense opportunity, look, we announced that we would be developing a hybrid autonomous version of the S4 aircraft for defense customers last summer. We progressed to beginning the flight testing of that variant over the fall, and we continue to work on preparing for on-site customer demonstrations shortly, followed by off-site customer demonstrations at their facilities in the fall. I can say that the partnership between Joby and L3 is going great. And I think one of the big significant developments is that we've spent a lot more time with the core customers. So that includes folks like Army, Marines, and in turn Navy. And I think we've gotten, and that is not just us, but also the folks at L3, increasing confidence that there are important capability gaps that this aircraft has an opportunity to fill. What I think is also important to note, and this kind of goes against some of the commentary that folks have been talking about, it's really about finding the right aircraft to fill those capability gaps. Folks don't care if it's a variant of a commercial product. And in fact, the focus of the Pentagon is around
All right.
dual use technologies.
Check, check. Mm-mm. Check, check, check. Hey, so if we're still here, I'll go ahead and just take over while Liam is doing quick technical difficulties. So let's see. Let me go ahead and also pull up our YouTube stream so I can get us live over there. Okay, cool. All right. So let's see. Initial reactions coming off the call. Let's see. Coming in, check 1, 2. All right, so let's see. So as we kind of crowdsource this out and work through it, you know. So some initial thoughts as we are coming off the call. So let's see here. Let me go back a page or two in my notes. So, you know, one thing, as we went over in the pre-show, when we were looking at the projected revenue coming out for Blade, so we were projecting them, they were looking to, I'm sorry, for Joby, they were looking to have a $105 to $115 million revenue stream coming in through 2026. So having that question pre-stream on, was that going to be anything outside of Blade operations, or was that going to be really specific to Blade operations? It did seem like that was stamped in the Q&A, where that would have been on Blade operations revenue, which could go a little fluctuation in seasonality, but that was kind of stamped in as that would be the Blade revenue that would be coming in. So, you know, I know the call had started off, and let's see. So really talking about a lot on the cash to deliver on the mission. You know, I think something that we definitely want to keep an eye on is the cash run rate that is going on with Joby. You know, I think for me, that was something very interesting to kind of peel behind. You know, if we're sitting at $1.4 billion currently, I think the guide, as they're going to do a 6-month guide now, was in the 340 to 370. Yeah, so in the 340 to 370 million dollar range. So if you extrapolate that, so they're saying that for the first half. So you're shaving out about 400 million off of that $1 billion of liquidity. So it's still keeping around a market cap of, I'm sorry, a cash on hand and liquidity assets of about $1 billion there. But again, that was speaking for the first half of 2026. So, so we're going to see basically how they can continue to progress and what their cash timelines are going to be looking for moving into the latter part of 2026. Let's go through a few that we had starred here. You know, and I'll bounce around. Some will be bearish, some will be bullish, and some will be neutral. You know, it was very interesting to hear that, you know, although they've been doing a lot of flights in the air, and chat, please help me out with this, but it really sounded like it was the ground testing in which the Joby was continuing to push the focus on. So I know that they've been doing a lot of air testing, which again is going to gain valuable data for the flights. But again, it seemed like Jobin was able to step in on the Q&As there and give a little bit of context to, let's see here. Sorry, I have some of this starred, so just bear with me as I get to that. And also, you know, just kind of, yeah, so he said that the flight tests, they get more attention is something that he had said in there. So basically ground tests matter more, but flight tests get more attention. So that was kind of an interesting little nugget that was picked up in there. You know, there was the payload question that was asked by multiple analysts. I do think that that's something that, you know, we are going to have to keep an eye on. You know, bag of holding has always kept us very grounded in that sense of wanting to see the tech proven out. So again, you know, through, you know, maybe past members that have joined some of the Hustle Brothers calls in the past, you know, they've always kind of said that without a doubt, you know, they're basically carrying sandbags or carrying, you know, deadweight irons in there, and there's no chance that they're flying without, you know, the maximum payload in which they could carry. To that, Savi did ask the question about being the payload. Was it a software or was it battery evolution. What was going to allow basically the S4 to get the necessary payload that was being talked about on the call. And to that, I think it was Joe Ben, I believe, that answered that one. And he said that both, and then he said, so both software and battery are going to be needed to be basically enhanced. I'll use the word enhanced right now for the payload. And he did also mention, so he said that both, and he said other upgrades over time. So to me, that was a little bit of a question mark. Because again, on these calls, I think this is our best chance to get that guidance from the C-suite. So what I was hearing in that is, in so many words, they don't have an exact payload that they're able to reference on the earnings call at this particular time. And there's, be it either structural or component design aspects. And I am kind of shaken to use the word redesign. I know that gets kind of flooded around here a lot, and no matter the aisle you're on, I know we don't love that word. I like to try to use the word refine instead of redesign, because, you know, again, maybe I'll swing the energy back the other way, where we're in this golden pocket of FAA certification. You know, we're not having FAA certification tomorrow. And that's probably a good thing for all of these aircraft manufacturers. What this is going to allow them to do is they're going to be able to push through the ground testing, and they're going to have to see what alterations are going to be needed to be made to the S4 to have that payload, the maximum payload, I guess I'll say, in which they're looking to operate under. What I find interesting in the dichotomy of that, though, is that I was hearing that they are pretty, I want to use a better word than sure, pretty confident that there's going to be passenger flights in the UAE basically in 2026. So I don't want to sit here and say more information to come, because I want to grab the information that was just given to me. But it's a little counterintuitive, as I'm hearing we don't necessarily have the payload numbers to be able to provide you. So let's think pilot, let's give or take 200 pounds on average for the pilot. So we know that the S4 has been able to fly with that pilot. But again, it has been pilot plus 4 passengers. So again, we're all expecting kind of average passenger weight to be in the 150 to 250 range, to give that ability of the payload to be in that 600 to basically just under sub 1,000 pound payload. You know, we've seen structural designs with other eVTOL companies where they have had to basically go back and scrap a subscale design and basically broaden out the wingspan to maximize what the payload of that aircraft could be. So yeah, I definitely think it's interesting times to keep an eye on what Joby's sending through TC. And again, it all kind of spirals together and goes together. But when Austin was talking about phase of assembly, you know, and he was talking about, and because kind of answered with, you know, cadence coming off in the next few quarters and maturity of the manufacturing line. So I don't know. And again, I'm not in the C-suite of the company, but per all reports, and I believe it was on last quarter, and Liam, feel free to give me the head nod or the don't say this, you know, but I feel like it was on the last quarterly call where we were hearing 4 per month through 2027. So has something changed in that? Is that still the numbers? I want to say that that's still the numbers. I didn't hear anything on this call that said, yes, that is going to be the number of manufacturing, but it was basically stating that this phase of assembly and maturing the manufacturing line is going to be one that is a hurdle, but is also one of the reasons that they've been leaning in so cash heavy to the assembly line. But again, there's also cash to get these assembled. So again, now I'm kind of floating back into the cash burn rate from Joby, and I think really wanted to keep an eye on that. And again, that price, the price to book ratio on whether or not, again, we're having good market sentiment, good macro sentiment, or focusing on, again, company thesis, company structure, and company accomplishments, and what they've been able to do to match up with the evaluations that have been given to each respective company. So let's see here with Joby. They did stamp on the Metropolis. So speaking in again that there could be the 25 garages or so. That would basically seem that, kind of the old verbiage is the turnkey, kind of turning the helipad into the vertiport. And kind of going through that, it was interesting to hear that Metropolis does hold 5,000 parking garages or parking structural units. So again, it's always going to be a slower rollout at the beginning or a more minimal rollout at the beginning. So it'll be interesting to see as we go from the 25 at Metropolis, will this be something that can be elevated? And is this something that's being proven out to Metropolis as basically good investment, good business plan on their end to continue to scale up and ramp out the vertiport build out? And also to go into that, we would just want to touch on really quick also that the investment around the vertiport, it's sounding like vertiport investment in the UAE is being done by the RTA group. RTA. So RTA basically continuing with the vertiport build out there. But when it does come to the infrastructure more maybe on the US soil, maybe in the Asia soil as well, I'm not sure. We'll need more guidance on that, where we'll need to maybe put some cash to build out that infrastructure as well. So let me just see if I got anything else for you guys. And I think what we'll do is probably give everybody a little bit of time to digest the call. Feel free to go back, listen to the earnings call again. Again, once we end here, if you have any questions, do drop them in the chat. I know Liam is very, very active in dropping, I'm sorry, not dropping in the chat, but coming in, replying to the comments. So let's all go back. When you have time, let's give another listen. And there we go up there right now. That'll be the Hustle Brothers new website that has come up. Just as a general plug, there is some really cool merch on there. I'm about to go get a t-shirt myself. So I'm actually loving the merch that came on there. And just, this is not a plug, but this is again, just Liam as the kind gentleman that he is. The snow hat that was sent for my son, and I'm not gonna lie, I wear it quite often myself. So just a general shout out to the quality of gentleman that Liam is. But it looks like Blade is still very heavy in the operations of Joby, expanding within the US and taking over basically what Blade has already created in a rotorcraft network and integrating their aircraft into the Blade operations as well. And also they were touching on Uber and how, again, we're going to be seeing that integrated more into the app and again for the more public adoption. But I think, let's take some time. Let's look at the cash burn rates. Let's see what they talked about the ramp of manufacturing. Let's see if we get some details on if we're still going for 4 a month for 2027. And, we're about a week away from the eIPP. But before we jump off, again, if you have any questions or comments, we'll end the stream here in about 30 seconds, but do drop them in. That way we can get back to you, answer any and all questions. And also, 1 week from today, we will be running. So actually, just a real quick Hustle Brother update. On Sunday, I would expect that we'll be back on for eVTOL Weekly Live. So I think that would be a great chance for the community to have 3 or 4 days to digest this information. And we can all come back and revisit, and we can all kind of question each other or calm each other down or build each other up, and just kind of explore the whole call that took place. And then come back, we will be having the Archer Aviation stream live on March 2nd. So again, come here early. We're going to have the chat open, and we would love to see all Joby, Archer, Hover, any eVTOL investors, because again, I think we're learning it's not just one company that's going to make this industry. It's these companies together that are going to make this industry. So on that, I appreciate everybody that joined us for the earnings call. You guys are amazing. I hope everybody has a great night. And for Liam, big shout out to him and from him. For Dylan, sign off from the Hustle Brothers community. Love you guys. Have a great night. And we're going to see y'all soon.